Okay, good afternoon. It is Tuesday, February 4th, 2025 at 5:30 p.m. You are at a City of Wausau Economic Development Committee meeting. We do have a quorum present. Alder Killian, thank you, is excused. So with a quorum present, I will call this meeting to order. So first on the agenda, we have public comments. Do we have anyone here for public comment? Okay, seeing no one here, we'll move on to number 2, which is approval of the minutes from the January 7th, 2025 meeting. Council members, have you all had a chance to look over the minutes? Any questions, any comments, any revisions? None. Okay, so we have a motion to approve by Alder Gisselman, second by Alder Tierney.
Sure.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? No? Okay, so minutes are approved and will be placed on file. Item number 3 on the agenda is discussion and possible action approving request to install photovoltaic equipment on property ground leased by City of Wausau to Van Smiling Eyes LLC at 1300 North River Drive, Wausau on the Water, or WOW. So we have, or should I turn this over to you, Mr. Pfeiffer? Okay.
I can give a brief introduction. We have some information in your packet about what they're looking to do in terms of the photovoltaic solar project out there. We also have representatives here that can answer any questions that pop up. It's a unique situation as the city has a ground lease in there. You can see that agreement in your packet. Based on that, as they're applying for this grant application, as we are the ones that control the site ultimately, there's some paperwork that we needed to fill out. Based on that, we wanted to bring it through the committee and council approval structure.
So, oh, would you like to speak? Would you like to come up to the microphone? Anything that you want to add, to tell us, to tell the committee?
Sure. My name is Randy O'Brien. I'm with Olson Solar Energy, and we're going to be the installers for the solar at the property. And I guess I'm just here to answer any questions if they arise, as far as the system goes, the installation, how it would affect the ground per se. Again, this is a completely roof-mounted system on top of the roof. All equipment will be mounted on the building in conjunction with WPS, so it shouldn't affect the ground per se at all. So I guess.
That is one question I had is, in the event that during installation, there were any injuries or anything like that, does the city, do we need to be concerned about that for any kind of insurance or any kind of liability? I don't know. And for Attorney Jacobson, do you know?
Well, we're fully bonded and insured ourselves, so there would be no liability on the city whatsoever.
Do you agree? Okay.
Thank you. And I had that question too from Alder Killian today, and I've talked with Mary Ann about what we do in other situations where we ground lease property and they need the owner's permission for the installation. We're going to be talking about that, but if they can provide us proof of their insurance during the installation, I'm sure we'll be fine.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you both. Committee members, other questions? Okay, Alder Henke?
I think this is a great idea. So I'm all supportive of it, and I'd like to hear. Oh, okay, I'd make a motion to approve.
Okay, motion by Alder Henke and second by Alder Tierney. Any other questions? Then all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? No? Okay, then that motion is approved. That was nice and simple. So next up on the agenda, number 4 is discussion and possible action on exterior facade improvements for Ash Properties LLC for 180 East Wausau Ave, otherwise known as Infused.
So going back to your November 13th, 2024 Economic Development Committee, the committee requested Mr. Aschenbrenner of Infused to provide exterior facade improvement plan for this meeting. He's provided that. It's in your packet, and looks like he wants to give a presentation on it.
Perfect. Thanks for allowing me to present. Presentation, I kind of took the input from the November meeting and decided to work with Revi to improve the landscaping around Infused. The first page in the packet is basically a list of what we're going to be utilizing and installing, which is essentially 22 planters of various types. The next page shows you the different types of planters in terms of what they look like, their composition and relative size. The exact size and measurements is on the first page. And then the third page is an overhead schematic helped to represent what the area would kind of look like. And so what this does is helps to create 2 outdoor space areas for us. The first outdoor space is straight to the north. There's a hallway that helps to guide our clientele into the main entryway. And then there's a kind of little garden area just to the north of that. And then on the west side, there's kind of an extended planter unit system that creates another little outdoor space that'll essentially be kind of green lush. The next page that I have is essentially photos of the building to help to give an idea. So there'll be some of the planters that'll be abutted up against the structures of like in between the doors where those posts are. Those are kind of the more narrow 3-foot tall planters. The next picture is showing the south side facade, some minor improvements that we made of some signage to help to soften the south side. And then the next photo kind of shows a little bit of what the north space will look like. We kind of also included that to show the fence that we have up. And then the second to last page really shows kind of the width of that north space and how that'll be semi-enclosed with planters to create a little green garden area. And then the final photo just kind of shows just another viewpoint of the main area. So with that, I'll take comments and questions.
Thank you for that. Committee members, any questions? Alder Henke.
Yeah, thanks for bringing this back to us.
Yeah.
I think it's what we were looking for. I don't know, I don't want to speak for everyone else if it's what they want, but
Yeah.
I think it looks nice. And honestly, just that little bit of woodwork on that sign
Yeah, helps.
changed it completely, really.
Perfect.
So that's all I had. Thanks.
Thank
bet.
you. I have a couple of questions.
Yes.
So, are you going to have outdoor seating, or was that just to show, like,
There is intent to have some outdoor seating. So I think the quantity of outdoor seating that we have is a little bit variable. But what it does is helps to kind of divide the parking lot, and then also it kind of breaks the building up a little bit into smaller sections. We, having just recently been open, it's hard to know, but some of the needs that we've had for graduation parties and spring events and also summer events have been, we hope to open the garage doors and have a little space outside for like yard games and things like that. So that kind of helps us from that. So in terms of specific outdoor seating, we'll have some kind of cafe tables out there eventually.
I just had seen seeing the umbrellas, I was just curious, that's
Yeah.
all that.
Yep.
But thank you for that. So, and speaking of parking,
Yeah.
do we have an agreement with the woodchucks?
Yeah, that's why I put in that kind of overhead schematic. Our intent is to have the planters on pallets so that essentially like a mechanized forklift system can move them around. So that therefore we can easily use them as like modular units to move them close up to the building so that parking for large events, specifically woodchucks parking, is not affected.
Yeah, there's a requirement in there for 48 spots through 2029, I believe.
Okay. And then, thank you for that. And then my last question is, so are you now open to the public, or is it still like for events?
Well, we're always open to the public, so we're just open by appointment. So the public is welcome to visit us at any point in time, and through our website, there's ways to contact us for us to be open. So we're essentially open to the public, but right now, based upon staffing, we're taking people coming in through essentially appointments.
Okay.
And we have a request mechanism online to do so.
Okay.
Yeah.
So will you, and I'm just curious, again, that's
Yeah.
just why I'm asking this. So will you be eventually, like, open all the time? Do you think? Like, is that?
We hope to, yeah.
Yeah.
So, I mean, when you have a project, you have fixed costs and then you have variable costs. With your variable costs, you have employee costs. And so we do not want to get into the trap that a lot of people get in, which is being open, having all this excitement, having poor service because we don't have the staff, then staffing to the excitement, having the excitement die off, and then have to lay off a bunch of staff. So we're at a point where we're still from the development originally that we're trying to recoup some costs, and so we're trying to maximize profitability from that regard.
Yeah.
And all of the staff that we have, we are having kind of heavier conversations because we're quite busy of the staff that we all have are part-time, so they have other jobs, and for them to commit to us full-time is a big step that we're going to all do together. And I don't know when that timeline's going to be, because we have a number of part-time staff, and I would like to commit to them that we can be open full-time,
Yeah.
but that's going to be a bit tricky.
You got a liquor license, right?
That's correct.
But is it a regular?
Yeah, we have a full liquor license. It's
Okay.
just it's a reserve liquor license because there's only quantitatively so many liquor licenses
what I
that we
thought.
have.
Okay.
So the reserve is essentially a state kind of mandate. But yeah, we have a full-fledged liquor license. It just happens to be a reserve liquor license. The biggest difference between the two is one is transferable with the sale of the business, which we don't have, and then the other one costs, the one that we have costs a lot more money. So instead of a $15 fee, you have to pay $10,365.
Okay. So, thank you for
Yeah.
your patience with all my questions.
Yeah, no
I was
worries.
just kind of curious, and I'm anxious to
Utilize the
attend
space.
it. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Any other questions by anyone? So then, do we need action on this?
It would be good for the committee to approve it, just as you requested it to come forward to you so that we can close that loop.
So then I'm looking for a motion to approve the exterior facade improvements. Would that be it?
Yep.
For Ash Properties LLC for 180 East Wausau Avenue, infused. Okay, motion by Alder Tierney, second.
I'll second.
Okay, by Alder Henke, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. None opposed? Okay, motion passed. Thank you so much. Okay, so number 5 on the agenda, update on Thomas Street infill and WAM grant. Mr. Pfeiffer.
Thank you. January 13th of this past month, we met with DNR representatives, mayor, some of our staff, as well as Alder Killian, that's the district she represents, met to talk about the status. Their phase 1 was complete in December, provided us with that, and wanted to talk about what their next steps were. What they're going to be doing with those properties is doing phase 2 testing on all of those properties, all the city-owned properties on Thomas Street. Hoping that, I haven't heard anything, but hoping that they'll be doing that testing relatively soon, that we can continue the timeline moving forward. I wouldn't anticipate that we'll see any results back before early summer until we know our next steps on that. But hopefully everything comes back on that. We don't have too many issues that we need to deal with, and we can start looking at ways to find housing options for those properties. One of the other things that we will be looking and bringing towards the Economic Development Committee in the near future is based on how funding works for potential cleanup of these sites. We may be looking at transferring them to the CDA. Transferring them to the CDA within 180 days opens up some different opportunities for grant funding. If the city were to maintain them or to continue to own them, we would be looking and have to find our money ourselves. Where if we go through the CDA, it opens up opportunities for low-interest loans, low to no-interest loans on these properties. So trying to maximize our money wherever we can there, and think that might be an opportunity that we're going to continue to explore. That'll take any questions.
Alder Gisler.
So you mentioned our timeline, so what exactly is our time? So this year, we're pretty much waiting for Phase 2 and some type of cleanup. So how do you envision our timeline going forth through the rest of this year and into the future?
But that's a good question, and I hesitate to provide too much of a timeline because any time that we've projected a timeline on this, we've been significantly lackluster in that. What my hope is that sometime by early summer, we'll be able to have another conversation with the DNR, and they'll be able to provide us with the results of the Phase 2. That'll tell us what we're necessarily looking at in terms of potential cleanup. Depending on what the cleanup looks like, we'll kind of determine our timeline moving forward. In a perfect scenario where everything comes back clean in early summer, we can look at options for getting our first few houses on some lots out there this summer in terms of looking at how we're going to do it. In all likelihood, it's probably spring of '26 before we're actually seeing any construction or homes going in there, and I think that's a best case scenario.
So do we have a general plan? Because some are remnants and, so do we have a scenario with regard to what, specifically the Thomas Street east of Wausau, in that block and a half, do we have sort of a sense of how we're going to develop that area with regard to family homes or?
From the direction I've been given and listening to the last council meeting where we talked about infill on Bridge Street, our intention is to continue to look at single-family infill options for that segment of Thomas Street. We've got some options, and we'll have some conversation for you at your March meeting next month with some new options that we're looking at in terms of infill.
Actually, I think we have to do single-family homes on Thomas because that was what was promised to the community, if I remember correctly.
Correct, that's what has been proposed in terms of some of the different listening sessions we have. I don't believe we're under any legal requirement to put single-family homes there, but that's been the conversation that we've been having, is trying to find a way to put single-family homes on those lots.
I guess if that's what we have promised them in the past, we should probably do that because that's been kind of a disaster in that area. So I think we need to step up and do what we say in this case. That's my opinion on that.
It's been a long, ongoing project for many years, long before I was here. And like I said, our intention is to continue to look at single-family options there where we may look, just based on how the Bridge Street project went, that we may look for opportunities to do density on some of our other lots or duplexes or something like that. But yes, single-family infill is what we're looking for Thomas Street right now.
Oh, I don't think we should let the Bridge Street issue hinder what we're thinking with regard to Thomas Street. I think that the neighborhood meeting after neighborhood meeting was with regard to single-family homes, and I think that's the obligation of this city council to go forward with that. And I question if it gets turned over to the authority, what obligation does the authority have, because that's completely different. Although two members of the city council sit on there, that doesn't really take it away from the city council and the life that we've lived with regard to the planning for that stretch of housing. So I would, at this point in time, I think we have to honor some of the not only promises but the development. I mean, we've worked the neighborhood how many years now with regard to how we're going to be developing that stretch, and I would think that the city council has that obligation. So when you use the words other options, it's kind of sets off some fear that other options may be developing, and I, at this point in time, am dubious of anything besides single-family homes in this area.
And to be clear, my other options that I was talking about are funding sources for the potential cleanup of any environmental contaminants on those properties. But yes, that, I mean, obviously, that's the council's option. You do not need to transfer them, but it may come with a higher price tag to the city in terms of what we're paying for cleanup. A lot of things that are uncertain yet at this point because we don't even know what's on there.
And I have to,
Alder Tierney?
I have to agree with Alder Gisselman, because you had made mention of duplexes, and again, I think in the case of Thomas Street, we have to look at single-family housing, because I know that's been discussed many times in the past, and I believe that's what that community is expecting the city to do.
Thank you. Any other questions, comments? Alder Henke?
Yeah, Alder Watson and myself are the two on that board, and I'll just share a little bit from those meetings. I haven't heard of anything other than single family, and as long as I'm on that committee, I mean, that's the direction I would drive to have these projects come through, so. Yeah. Thanks.
Thank you, Alder Henke. So just to be clear, you mentioned CDA funds for the cleanup, possibly? Is that what you're, or,
So
could you repeat that one more
What the
time?
transfer of the properties to the CDA would provide is funding options through the EPA,
Okay.
which is a low-interest loan, or excuse me, a no-interest loan, as well as potential money from the DNR to help with cleanup. If we did not do that, then it would be on the city to come up with the funds for that cleanup.
Okay. Other questions, comments? None? Okay, then there's nothing, no action we need on that.
No action.
Just information. Then if there's nothing else, then the next on the agenda, number 6, is a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Motion by Hinkie, second by Alder Gisselman. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And the meeting is adjourned. Thank you.